And action.
The Star Wars reported. Sorry?
The Star Wars Reporter podcast.
Got it. Or you are watching.
Yeah. Action. The Star Wars Reporter podcast.
Right. The Star Wars Reporter podcast you are watching. Where's my $50?
Oh, I love that opening. Welcome to the Star Wars Reporter podcast, the official podcast of StarWarsReporter.com. We have our last show tonight of 2022. In today's topic, we're going to be looking back at everything that was Star Wars in 2022. Tell you what we think, the good, the bad, the Star Warsy, and everything else.
That's right. Like Steve, we were talking about before we went live here, the fact that this year, 2022, is probably the most Star Wars content we've ever had a chance to watch in our lifetime. So when you look at it that way, that's pretty exciting. But back as a kid, we had to wait every 3 years for a movie to come out, and then that was it, right? So the fact that we're able to sit down and enjoy Star Wars, so much content produced, pretty exciting.
Well, back in the day, when a movie came out, it wasn't 3 months later. It was on TV, it was on DVD, it was on whatever. It was like, there wasn't anything until like VHS didn't come out until like the late 80s or something, right?
That's right.
And then it was like VHS tapes were like $150 a cassette and stuff. So I think it was Top Gun when it came out and finally came out on video. Everything else was like $150, and they were $19.99.
Yeah,
totally made the industry.
Well, Blockbuster, when Blockbuster started up, apparently, because they started buying more copies, so the more copies they brought down it just made it much more affordable. I watched a documentary on that, how movies used to cost like $100 each when they came out, right? But you imagine this, like $100 to buy a VHS. Can you imagine that? Like, that's what it was in the beginning. Like,
it was
wow.
so crazy. Well, I saw an old ad from a Sears catalog for a VHS, and it was something like $2,000 for a VHS. It's like, you can pick one up for $25 if they're even still around. Like brand new,
Exactly. Not used, absolutely. But hey, a year of Star Wars. We should call it the 2022 is the year of Star Wars.
2022, and like you said, there was so much that happened, and we're going to go over 6 of the series. We're going to just have a fun podcast talking about the things we liked and maybe things we didn't like about different series, and we're going to give our top 6 lists of what we liked of the shows. But before we get going, I just want to make sure that everyone checks us out at StarWarsReporter.com. Make sure you follow us on our social media. It sounds funny. It sounds like the music in the beginning starts to, and it starts slowing down. I don't know if that was, anyways. I'm not a filmmaker.
You did a fantastic job. As an editor myself, I thought you compiled that quite well.
Okay.
Love the thumbs ups.
I don't know if I could believe you, because when I did that voice work for you and you said I did a good job, I know you were full of crap. But you had no one else available, and I understand.
I would use you again for voice of a stormtrooper any day.
Wow. Okay, I believe you.
So where do we start? Where do we kick this off, man?
Okay, I'll let you choose. Where should we start?
Oh, so you want to break down a series? You want to talk about the 5 favorite things over the year, or 5? Where do you want to start? You lead, and I'll follow.
Okay, why don't we talk about some of our favorite things from this year? So it could be any of the series, all of the series.
Okay, so I'll start here. My biggest surprise about how good it was going to be for me was the Bad Batch. I didn't know what to expect. I thought the Bad Batch exceeded all my expectations. I really like the storytelling. There's some kind of filler stories that we talked about before about there's one of these missions sort of thing where it wasn't progressing the story, but I really liked the fact that they lost one of the sharpshooter guy. I can't remember his name. What's his name? The one of the brothers.
Yeah,
I just
I
love
should know this.
I just love how it started. It started. I knew his name the other day, but sorry, I liked how it's showing the start of the Empire. It's all fresh after Order 66. It was just a great way to start off because there's a lot of stuff we don't see there, right? And so, what I love about these series is they're showing us what happened from Order 6, from Revenge of the Jedi in between A New Hope, and it's just filling in a lot of those gaps. Like what happened to these clone troopers? What happened?
Right.
So it's just neat to see these guys living out their lives as renegades, as on the run sort of thing, and just watching the fall uh, of the clones, and just it's just loving that kind of story, which again I had no expectations for, and I was pleasantly surprised. I like all the characters like Wrecker and Hunter and Tech and Echo, and and of course Omega, right? So it's just kind of neat, just that storyline that they're hinting so much about Omega. Is she the best of all of them? Is she Force sensitive? We don't know, but
Right.
it's just been an exciting little ride, and I'm really looking forward to season 2. So that was my biggest surprise of the year.
Right. No, I mean, I think we all collectively loved the series. Uh, yeah, I loved how raw and everything was, because it was basically Order 66. It just happened, and uh, I just really love the Bad Batch, that unit, right? And seeing all the clone stuff and the different characters, and yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, I think I've said it a million times. The animation side of Lucasfilm is like the best storytelling. Like, like they always kind of they stay on canon, they stay on continuity, they stay on kind of the characters and the topics that we love. I mean, maybe it's kind of an easy thing, right? Like when you get into like an Andor or other series where they try to do something very, very different, right? I mean, that's hard, and this seems easy, but uh, even if you take a bunch of Jedis and a bunch of stormtroopers and Darth Vader and throw them into something, it doesn't mean it's a success, right?
No,
But Filoni and the crew, man,
well, like you're saying, it's all about character, right? Like we talk this all the time about how Filoni seems to have an understanding of the universe, and
mm,
and everything for him is story first, right?
right,
The pew pew, there's always pew pew, but story first. Build the
mhm,
characters, build a following, build like. 'Cause I remember because I'm watching Star Wars, the Clone Wars. I'm still in season 4. I remember season 1 was a slog. I remember
mm,
not liking
mm,
Ahsoka at all in the beginning.
right,
But as it goes along, and like they really dive into the character, they build the character, they build traits where you start caring about characters, and that's why I think they've done
right,
really well with the Bad Batch. Is they build these characters that everyone has a little sort of tick, right? A little thing like for a long time. Oh, we thought Wrecker's going to snap, and then we were waiting for that, and how each episode had a different kind of feel to it. 'Cause I remember when Wrecker went crazy, it was like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like a horror movie, like he's chasing sort of thing. Like he was Jason or he's Michael Myers chasing everybody down, right? And I just
yeah,
like that kind of feel for it. It's very dark. We talked about the animation, the lighting, the like everything they did. Everything became very cinematic. Where the Clone Wars in the early years, where it was animation, it's animation, right? But this, it took it to the next level. Everything looks so good. Everything looks so it's animated, but it looks real, like it's in the real world, like the sparks, the
mhm,
the
mhm,
gunfire, the blaster, and you watch Clone Wars, it's pew pew pew, and a droid goes down. It might be a little spark, but here it's a spark off the wall and it's glowing still. You know what I'm saying? Little details like
yeah,
that. It's everything looked good. It looked gritty. You see that the outfits weren't polished, they weren't clean. They were, everything it just looked like it lived in the real world, and that with the storytelling just made it a great win for Disney, I thought, and for my enjoyment.
yeah. I find that with Filoni projects and even this one, um, uh, it kind of the canon is in it subtly. Like
Mm.
if you look at a series like Book of Boba Fett, when there's a cameo or if there's some kind of Easter egg, I mean, it's there in your face. I mean, Andor had that whenever they were in Luthen's shop, right in the background. But if you look at Book of Boba Fett, when there was a cameo or something that was supposed to be like, look, it was very obvious, right? Where the way that the animation is written, the canon or things in there, it's not like like here you go, here's so and so. It's just part of the story. It just feels natural, right? And that could be saying with Clone Wars. One of my favorites is still Star Wars Rebels. I mean, it's just
which
everything.
I just finished that series. I watched all 4 seasons in 2022. As I was like a whole new Star Wars content to absorb thanks to Disney Plus. And again, like you're saying, Steve, thoroughly enjoyed that storyline. Again, how it blends characters from the movie universe into this animated series, then the rise of the Rebel Alliance sort of thing, right? It just, again, but it's not breaking down walls, right? You know what I'm saying? It's not destroying like let's just say like one of the high parts. Again, I'm going to look at maybe one of my lower parts of the year. And again, not that because when Obi-Wan came out, it was you remember me saying, Steve, like at this point that I thought Obi-Wan was my favorite series, and I really did love Obi-Wan. But my biggest criticism about Obi-Wan was this whole Princess Leia as 10 years old and not remembering. It just that kind of, when we discussed this, it kind of didn't quite fit into the canon. Sort of, it kind of rewrote something, right? Sort of thing. And that was my biggest, I try not to let it bother me because I was just enjoying the show. I did love the interaction between the little girl, who I thought was amazing actress for a 10-year-old girl. And with Obi-Wan, I thought Ian McGregor was amazing. I thought the storyline was so good. I loved seeing Darth Vader in his prime walking down this, one of my favorite things in 2022 is Darth Vader walking down the street, grabbing people, using the Force and snapping somebody's neck. Like that was like how, and the troopers, the troopers, stay back. He's walking down by himself, nobody protecting him because no one, like we were talking about this before we came on, was like, having power, absolute power can corrupt everybody, and he was one corrupt dude walking down that street. So
he was all angry.
So that's again one of my favorite things of 2022 is seeing Darth Vader on the screen in his prime.
Yes.
And but my biggest it's not the worst thing of 2022. I'll come with that later on. Was this Princess Leia and Ben Kenobi, 10 years old? Like it was 8 years later. They meet each other in New Hope. It just
yeah. She didn't seem too upset when he died in A New Hope, right? She was keeping their secret still.
Ben seemed like a complete stranger, right? You know what I'm saying? It just that's where again. But who's in charge of Ben Kenobi? It wasn't Filoni, wasn't Favreau. It was Kennedy, right?
KK, yeah.
And KK just doesn't seem to be concerned with.
Right. I don't think that
continuity.
There seems to be a lot of. It's really weird. I think we talked about this offline. It just seems like a lot of writers seem to be not concerned with staying the course or staying on canon or staying on continuity, rather writing the story they want to write. And this IP kind of gets in the way of that, so they just change it and we all have to get over it. It should, and I hate the excuses. It's like, it's just a movie. It's like for 12-year-olds until it's not for 12-year-olds. And then they say, well, we're trying to be more adult. It's like, I thought it was for 12-year-olds. And it's like, it's kind of this back and forth excuse, right? And it's kind of bothersome, and it's like, I know I'm obsessed with Luke Skywalker and stuff. And
are you?
I'm not thinking that Obi-Wan should have been running around the planet or the universe with Luke Skywalker. Far from it, right? Because I mean, as in the continuity, if you look at canon in A New Hope, he was just like, oh, is that old Ben? And maybe we've gone over this. Maybe he could have run into Luke a couple of times and saved him a couple of times without Luke knowing he saved him, and you could see that that's what he was doing, his mission. And I was just watching a video on this. Someone was reviewing this a little late, and it was like, it's true. It's like Obi-Wan failed his mission every single way, right? The only reason why Luke's alive is because Reva had a change of heart.
Yeah.
And that's it. So Obi-Wan was not the hero. Obi-Wan pretty much was a failure, except for then touching base with him like 10 years later and saying, well, he didn't. He just ran across Luke and, well, maybe I should teach you the Force and blah, blah, blah. And it's just, Yeah, I just think there was no concern. I think they were more concerned about just trying to write a little bit Vader and Obi-Wan stuff, right? And I think a lot of people were like, I'm not sure about this series, except for the last 2 episodes when we got to see Obi-Wan and Anakin and Darth Vader. Then all of a sudden it was like it went from a 5 to a 8 to 10 or something with people. And I'm like, okay. I mean, sure.
Yeah, Obi-Wan had a bit of the 80s slasher movies type storyline. The sequels, sometimes the sequels don't quite jive. They rewrite something just so they make it work in the next sequel. I thought a lot of Obi-Wan was a bit of lazy writing, like
Mm,
lazy scenarios, like the whole when he went to the tower underwater and just kind of walked through it. You know what I'm saying? We talked about this before. Like again, but I did say it was one of my favorite series at that point in time. Remember by episode 3,
right,
I was loving it, right? And
right.
then the Princess Leia got a little muddy. But again, I'm just like KK wants us to do. Just don't worry about anything else. Just enjoy it for what it is, and that's what I tried doing. So I didn't get hung up on that
For sure.
continuity.
For sure.
Again, it was one of my frustrations of 2022 was that kind of destroying that little timeline of Princess Leia and Obi-Wan not really knowing each other.
Right.
And
Let
how
me
about
tell you,
So,
my
sorry, go
favorite
ahead.
thing, my favorite thing of the year. So I'll
The,
tell you
the most favorite thing?
my
Most favorite thing.
my most
Okay.
favorite thing of all of the Star Wars this year,
Mm-hmm.
season 2 of The Mandalorian. Can you guess? All the Luke content in
I'm
the
gonna
beginning.
say I don't know. Maybe it's when Yoda, baby Grogu. They found out Grogu's
Grogu.
name. Is that was that it? No.
No,
Oh, was it maybe when Luke Skywalker showed up and saved everybody at the end of the
no.
series?
That was season 1, right? So
Of season 2.
season 2 is when
That was the
he's
end of season 2, and Luke Skywalker showed up. That was the end of season 2.
wait. What did we go? Oh, we're
No, it
going into
wasn't.
season.
I'm confused. Am I
Yeah,
confused? Yeah, I'm
you're
confused. I'm
confused.
sorry.
So
Yeah,
season
I
2 is
apologize.
he's got Grogu and he's training him in that scene, right? And
Mhm.
all the different scenes. And it was just very, very cool, right? Because it was showing Luke as who he is. I mean, it showed him at the season finale of season 1 being a badass and all that. But here he was like, the calm, good teacher, and with Ahsoka there, kind of. And when I saw Ahsoka was in this
So
episode,
time out. Luke Skywalker showed up at the end of season 2. You're gonna this stuff you're talking about. It was in the book of Fett. We have those 2 episodes of Mandalorian
oh
where he
yes,
went.
sorry, I'm getting
So,
that mixed up.
yeah, season 2 was the ending with Luke
Yes,
Skywalker.
okay, that's season 2. My favorite part was obviously. Sorry, I'm getting it mixed up. I'm getting ahead
It's
with
easy
my
to mix
notes
up
here.
because the book of Fett had 2 Mandalorian stories in it, which was
Well,
which me and you
didn't
kind
we
of
say
talked about.
basically like it was like they're like
It
halfway
was
through? They're
Mandalorian
like,
2.5.
let's just do the Mandalorian for a few episodes. But no, sorry, season 2. It was the ending. Sorry, I should
It's
read my
okay.
own notes.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to throw you off,
The
Steve.
big
But
ending. I know I
yes,
got confused there too. I'm glad no one
it's
was
easy.
watching. Uh, so yeah, no, the whole Luke showing up, and again, it took me by surprise because I thought there's no way in a million years that they're going to allow Luke Skywalker to come into that series because we know, I mean, in my opinion, they're not fond of Luke Skywalker at Lucasfilm, but thankfully Favreau and Filoni are, because when I saw that X-wing coming in, I honestly thought it was Ahsoka. I thought it was Ahsoka showing up. I for some reason I didn't put it together because I for sure in my head was like, no, Luke Skywalker's ever going to happen. It's just not. And then when I see the cloak walking, and I'm like, it's still her. I'm like, oh wow, okay, she's back. It wasn't until I could see the hand or like that it
The
wasn't
glove.
her,
Yeah.
and I was like, no. And I remember being home, and I told you this. I was glad no one was home. Right? It was like I was watching it during the day. My kids are in school. My wife's at work. I'm working from home, and I'm like freaking out when it's him, and then he's like going crazy on all of the droids, and I'm like yelling, I'm like screaming in my living room, going crazy, like I'm watching the Super Bowl. It was wild, right? I was almost tearing up, right? Like it was such a great moment, and that whole ending where Grogu's going to come with him, and they have that where Grogu's walking away with Luke over his shoulder, and the buildup of the music is just epic, epic, epic. And they're in the elevator, and it closes, and that was it. The perfect, 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 perfect ending. And then in season 2, they brought Grogu back. Or season
2.5.
Yeah, sorry. Then they kind of did this whole thing where they brought him back because, like we said before, some executive was like, "Oh, the numbers are great for this season." You did what? You got rid of our merchandise machine? Are you nuts? You got to bring him back. And probably Favreau's like, "What are you talking about? Like, he's gone. Like, we have to move on. What's going on?" So, anyways, then they cheaply bring him back, and whatever.
But you liked him coming back.
It was, I just thought it was perfect. I thought it would be better if he came back in a couple of seasons.
I agree, Steve. I agree with you on 100%. And that's probably why the Book of Fett had 2 episodes. A little tangent there was the Book of Mandalorian for 2 episodes. Again, they did work in Mandalorian into the Book of Fett for the last, so they had to bring him in somehow, and bringing him in just randomly wouldn't make sense, right? So they tied the 2 stories together. But so maybe one of my other weakest parts was the fact that having a Mandalorian, as good as the Mandalorian stories were in the Book of Fett, it just as a big, huge tangent in the middle of the series. 2 episodes were all about Mandalorian. Again, great episodes, don't get me wrong, but I did want to see more of the Fett.
Do you think that was inserted somehow? It seemed like that was going to be a season 3 thing or whatever.
I don't think so. I think I don't think so, because it's in the middle of the series. Maybe here's the situation. If it was just thrown in at the last minute, Steve, it wouldn't have been so good. You know what I'm saying? It was well written in. You know what I'm saying? I thought there was well done, well executed. The visual effects were top notch. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna just wing doing all the facial recognition for the de-aging of Luke Skywalker, right?
Right.
I'd say I think it had to be planned. I would think. But again,
I mean, it was filmed, but I just thought maybe stuff was filmed, and they thought, you know what? Why don't we stick it in the middle of this because some of the views were getting low on a Book of Boba Fett, and they thought maybe we'll just juice it up and throw in this stuff we have saved for the other series.
Well, let's talk about my third weakest. I'll always save my good stuff for the end because we want to finish strong. But my third problem I had was the fact that after seeing Boba Fett in season 2 of Mandalorian, he was badass, beating the hell of stormtroopers with a staff. And then we're going to Book of Fett, and he did a lot of talking. Again, I like the book. It was a little disappointing. Again, I really enjoyed the series, but I was a little disappointed. Like the fact that Robert Rodriguez, my favorite director in Hollywood, he shoots and edits all his own stuff. I pattern a lot of my stuff I shoot after his techniques.
Right.
And he was a spearhead in the thing, and I just thought, again, lots of stuff looked really good, and then some stuff didn't look great. Like I'm just going to say the train heist. Look, that train heist was amazing in episode 2. Then we had that little the pimped out speeder,
the scooter chase that looked like they were walking speed.
It was one of the worst things I've seen. It was so bad. And Rodriguez is the director of that one. But then you have the final episode where you have this big huge shootout in the streets. You have Cad Bane. You have Boba Fett riding a Rancor. Like, how awesome was that, right? Like, that series had many bumps, I thought, and that was my third thing I had issues with, is the fact that. But the worst thing of 2020, by far the worst thing of 2022 was that speeder chase scene in the Book of Fett. It's the worst thing by far. Nothing compares.
And the little modders that were riding it.
Like
all the scooters.
The scooters look stupid beyond Tatooine. It just made no sense how they were so pimped out. It just that was my biggest
bad.
My biggest issue was that.
Yeah,
sorry,
and
Rodriguez.
I think Tamora Morrison even recently said again in some interview that he wants Boba Fett to be Boba Fett, right? If they come back, and he had given interviews like that during the season, where he thought that Boba Fett was talking too much, the helmet was coming off all the time. And it wasn't like I think the Mandalorian had proven that they don't need to take the helmet off, but maybe they were running into where they didn't want to. Oh, here's another Mandalorian season where the guy doesn't take his helmet off, but it seemed to make more sense. And he wasn't the mean one, right? It was Fennec was the mean one,
Fennec
and
was
he
the
was
mean
like Mr. Because I guess he was changed because it was time with the Tuskens, blah blah blah. I think that he spent time, he heals, he learns a bit from them, but he's still Boba Fett. He should have, especially after when they were all murdered, he should have been like, "Oh, I'm back to vengeance."
Yeah.
And stuff, and put the helmet on or whatever he got the armor back and stuff, and been Boba Fett, right? It was too like talky etiquette stuff, and I just thought he should have just been like,
Boba Fett?
yeah, sitting in that
Yeah.
chair with leg up on the arm, attitude like, oh,
Like-
you're not agreeing with me, pew pew.
Yeah, power corrupts people. I want to see him corrupted. That's what I want to
Yeah.
see. Like rule with an iron fist. I agree 100%. Again, I did like the series. There's many good things out of the series. Cad Bane in live action was amazing. The black Wookiee, what's his
Chrysanthemum.
name? Yeah,
Chrysanthemum.
like he was
BK.
awesome. BK.
Yeah, he was
Like,
like my favorite part of the series.
We had Danny Trejo made an appearance with a little baby Rancor who trained him so they can ride him. Like there's many like even the freeing slave one, fire spray. In that scene when he's going down and the fire spray's attacking the bikers on the sand and just shooting them all up. Like how cool is that, right? Like there's again, it did win visual effects of the year.
Yeah.
What muchly deserved. Obviously, they didn't watch the speeder bike chase scene, but
they didn't
there's many.
that.
Yeah, there's many cool things, right? And you can see a gonk droid blow up. When they're freeing the fire spray.
Poor gonk.
Gonk. It was awesome. So that would be my number 3 for my weakest thing of 2022.
Right.
What's the one thing that really drove you nuts this year, Steve?
Again, I don't want to go back into the Kenobi thing. I kind of went into it where it was just kind of the continuity and the story, having young Leia involved at all. I don't think Luke should have been involved at all. Like I think I said this, if he was leaving the planet, it could have been someone came to him and said, there's an underground of Jedis, and Obi-Wan would be Obi-Wan and say, maybe I can help, and leave for a bit. And then he leaves Luke. Like we might get to see a few scenes of him doing stuff like in the background to protect Luke. He leaves, he helps, maybe Vader or someone's on his heels and they're like, we think it's Obi-Wan. He's like, that can't be, Obi-Wan's dead. And he's just always leading Vader away from Tatooine. And he helps and does this mission. I mean, Reva could even still be in there as the person trying to chase down this Jedi, whoever it is, leading these other Jedis out. And then when it's all said and done, and Obi-Wan makes his way back around to Tatooine to wait out the 10 years or so until he saves Luke in the desert from Tuskens. You know what I mean? Like, but they did this whole Leia thing, and it makes absolutely no sense. And that's the thing. That's the thing that actually really bumped Kenobi for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I totally see it. Again, I just forgave it because I was trying to watch it for what it was. But now that I'm looking back at the year in review and what we've seen,
right?
I can easily say, see, I'm on your side. I agree with you. I don't like how it's tarnishing the continuity. It just makes that little thing really muddy, and I just don't care for that so much. But that's one thing. So that's like 3 things. Is there anything else that really?
What about the other series, like one of the newer ones, like Tales of the Jedi?
I have not. I was talking about weaker stuff. Tales of Jedi. I have nothing poor to say about that.
Yeah.
Like again, not knowing because it's so short. I was not that I wasn't where I said the Bad Batch. I was really impressed at how it surprised me how good it was. This is short. I because of Bad Batch, because of Rebels, because of Clone Wars, I had high expectations for this. The trailers showed Ahsoka. The trailers showed Count Dooku. So I was like, okay, I wanted to see more character development. And holy crap, like before I didn't care about Count Dooku. Like there wasn't enough to really make me care about him. Now it's like it just wow, it opened up so much about the character, which and you're talking about, you know, how we were criticizing Princess Leia and Kenobi. It to me it didn't damage any, it filled in gaps, which made that character so much stronger, I thought.
Right. And again, like I said, the animation
Oh,
department at Lucasfilm, right? Animation department at Lucasfilm, they can tell the story. It stays within canon. It does continuity, and it doesn't create something so wildly out of place in Star Wars.
I thought the animation in that series was even higher than everything else. Like to
Yeah.
me, that was the epitome. That was the best Lucasfilms animation I've seen
It was
to date.
super awesome. It was
It
super
was
awesome.
it took it to the next. I think it was shorter, so I think they put more resources into it.
Right.
Oh, one thing, no, we forgot to talk about. We're not talking about. Didn't that anime series come out this year too? When that came out last in 2021? Remember the animated Star Wars stories? I can't remember if that was this year or last year.
I think that was last year, wasn't it?
Okay, maybe it was. It probably was 2021. But
I'm sure
just as we're talking about animation, right? But yeah, I just thought like the Count Dooku stories are so good. I thought that final episode with Ahsoka on that planet, and she was working that farming planet, and that
Yeah.
and just how she used the Force to save that person and that brother called the Empire, and this Inquisitor came, that Inquisitor who looks so good, like probably like there's Darth Vader, Darth Maul, and there's this new guy, whoever he was.
Very cool.
He was up there with me, like how cool he looked as a character.
And then he got spanked by Ahsoka in like a second.
and it just showed, and it just shows how powerful Ahsoka was. The fact that he came in, but again, the same problem with the Empire had. The Empire has the same problem, and we're seeing that so much in Andor, all this sort of stuff. What we're seeing is the fact that they're so overconfident.
Yeah,
So,
and
like,
especially
he
these
came in.
Inquisitors that aren't really good Jedi at all.
No, exactly. But they think they're the bomb because we're the Empire. We have all these resources. We have all these men. You know,
Look at my outfit and my cool
yeah,
mask.
look at my outfit. I have a red lightsaber. That's scary. Scary. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
Like, you know, oh, you're Ahsoka. You're on the run. You're nothing. Like it's just the fact that boom. Oh man. Like no, you're cannon fodder. You're nothing. And just that's what's awesome. So that's what I have to say with that series. I just thought it was amazing. I thought it was really good. I know that you had an issue with one of the episodes, but yeah, I didn't. I really liked it.
Oh, it wasn't. It was that small thing to do with Yaddle.
The Yaddle, the female Yoda, got kind of crushed. He thought she was crushed,
but not crushed, and she gets out and she dies anyways. Other than that, I mean, I pretty much think I gave it like a 9 or no, I messed around because you gave it like a 9.5, so I said
I give it like a 9.5. You give it like a. I thought you went lower.
I went 9. I went 9.8.
Did you?
Because then you were the lowest. Because
okay, that's right.
Adam
that's right,
went 10, and you went 9.5, and I made you look like a jerk.
That's right. That's right. I'm the bad guy. Yeah,
you're the bad guy because you didn't give it a high enough mark. But yeah,
the first episode, you know, when Ahsoka was a baby and she was captured by the animal sort of thing, and how she controlled the touch, the big saber tooth, whatever it was, right? And just how I remember watching the episode and crying because of that touch. Just how there was so much emotion in that scene. I don't know why I was crying, but it's just like it's just something. It was just so innocent, but at the same time, how powerful she was, and just the communication, and it was just done so well. And it just really left a little, you know, touching, right? And I just remember, yeah, that series, it was a huge win. But I had high expectations, and the fact that it didn't disappoint at all was a big plus.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually shocked at how good it actually was, right? Like when they showed the advertisements for it, I was excited about the different characters, and I thought the animation looked good. But the stories, like after watching it, like after the first or second episode, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I know exactly what Dooku's talking about. And again, him and Anakin followed, you know, kind of similar paths, right? Or were manipulated the same way by the Emperor, by Palpatine, into doing what they were doing, right? That whole like But and it also helped the fact that the Jedi were very wrong a lot of the times, too political, too military, and they were losing sight. I mean, Yoda even said to Obi-Wan in episode 2, I think, about the arrogance of Jedi when him and Obi-Wan and I think it was Mace were walking down the
Yeah,
hallway
walking
talking
down.
about
Yeah,
something, and he was like, "I always remember that." Where he points that out, and as it turns out, right, he could see it, but Yoda's probably dealing with the council and everything else himself, the politics, and I'm sure Yoda more than once had talked about arrogance and what are we doing here, right? But he wasn't the head of the council, and people have different ideas.
but and that's again. We have to tip our hat. We do it. It seems like every week, where it's a tip our hat off to Filoni, just
Right.
about how the fact that someone comes at, like we talk about the KK's group. I want to write my own story. Don't love the characters. Don't love it. You have Filoni and Favreau come in. They love the characters. They love the world. Let's not trump. They don't want the other stuff ruined. Let's
Mhm.
keep. Let's live in this universe. Let's live in the storyline. How can we tell our effective storytelling without destroying everything else that's come before it?
Yeah.
And that's what I find really important. That's what I think what a lot of people are loving when it comes to series, ongoing series on Netflix, whatever. There's so many very good series are going because they're telling a concise a timeline that all fits in together. They're not trying to randomly structure things together, right? So
Mhm.
that's why I tip my hat off to Filoni for doing what he does. And these short, again, they're like what? They're like 16, 15, 14, 16 minutes. They're all
Yeah.
like, but how much storytelling was that? And some episodes didn't have lots of dialogue.
Mhm.
Like the one
Yeah.
where the prince was captured by the citizens, and Mace Windu and Dooku were there to free him, and then like
Right.
there was very little, there was talking, but not tons of dialogue. It's
Right.
just all done by action, sort of thing, like what they were doing, what they're standing for, and standing up, and just like how it kind of distorted the Jedi's belief of what they're doing. Are we doing the right thing? Like those little things right there just makes so much difference, right? Count Dooku losing it with the king of that planet, right? Like or the senators, like
The
just
senator, yeah.
how like he's part of the Senate, and he's corrupt,
Yeah.
and he's an evil person. Look, these people are suffering because of his corruption, and so he's going to kill. Like it just
And
shows.
it's just adding to Dooku's feeling about
Yeah,
what's
so
going on.
that would be that series would be in my top 5 of the year. Like that'd be like let's say it's 5, because just the whole entire series filling in those gaps. Not the we already know lots about Ahsoka, but just the beginnings of her was really good. But the Count Dooku storyline, which I found just really really good, to me,
Yes.
saved that character, makes that character so much better in the prequel trilogy.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, I was more interested in his story than anything else in the series. Everything else was really cool, but it was his story. I was just like waiting for him to come back on the screen.
Because Lucas didn't have enough time to really jump into that character. Like he didn't he introduced him in episode 2, the Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you didn't really get a good set. Like he came out of nowhere. You don't know anything of his backstory. He's giving it off the movie, but you're like, you don't know any of the people. You don't know any of the scenarios. This just really helped fill in those little gaps, and just makes his appearance in episode 2 and 3 so much stronger.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, we've talked about this like crazy already for the last few podcasts, but Andor.
Okay, I know I said Bad Batch was a big surprise sort of thing. I know I think going into it, you had high hopes.
Mhm.
I didn't know I didn't know how I was going to fly. I was like, okay, Andor, sure, we're doing this series on that. I wasn't too big on it. Like, I wasn't, oh, great. And after watching the first episode, going, oh, they're making 12 episodes of this, because the first episode was slow, right?
Yeah.
And that's why, and I think they were smart. Let's send out 3. Because watching 3 episodes is a short movie, an hour and a half of content. That's
Yeah.
easily digestible. By episode 3, oh, this is really good.
Right.
And
Right.
then it just constantly got better. There was no filler. Like, for having 12 episodes, there was no filler episodes, I felt. It's all about progression, 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 progression. And I thought they did an amazing job building that character a bit more.
Right.
we know his fate. We know he's not going to make it
Right.
to A New Hope.
There isn't any surprises.
There's no surprises, but it's that journey of going there and how just seeing this guy who is so selfish. All he cared about was himself. He was good at what he did, but everything was for self-preservation,
Right.
self 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 glory sort of thing. To better himself,
Right.
and just watching that character change and every person he came in contact with, how it changed his perspective on everything. And I
Right.
just thought it was a great ride, amazing cast they brought in, and just I really thought that was one thing that was just so pleasantly surprised because it was not pew pew pew, it was character storytelling and
Right.
character, and yeah, and a different type of storytelling, right? Like you know what I'm saying, it was different from everything else ever made in Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that the filler, instead of filler episodes, I think they filled it with very, very slow burn, as everyone says.
Hmm.
And where it's like 3 episodes were like one story arc, and then maybe a little bit of action, and then 3 episodes of a story arc, and then a little bit of action and stuff. And I kind of said this before. It's like if you're a hardcore fan, you can sit there and you could say and pick out the names or the scenes or what's going on like that we now know, from the movies or from books or for other series, and be really fascinated by it and overlook the slow burn and lack of action. But I said this before, I fully understand if casuals or non-fans didn't watch it or stop watching it, because it's the lowest viewed series so far out of all Star Wars, right? So because of that, now I've always said that I always want to see the underbelly of Star Wars, like the criminal side of it. That's why I was excited for Book of Boba Fett. We didn't get to see a lot of that. And this one, I don't mind this whole behind the scenes kind of look at it, non-Jedi, non-Han Solo, you know what I mean? Like kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And it's just very like the average person. What were they going through when the Empire took over? Where was that kind of grassroots, kind of organic, start to the rebellion? How did it happen? It wasn't like all of a sudden some hero went, I'm going to do it. And
No, exactly.
it became epic. It was just like people that got fed up with it and started doing stuff. Like they couldn't go head to head at the time with the Empire, but they got, well, we know the end of the story, right?
Yeah,
Of what
exactly.
happened. So that's the, like, I did enjoy the series, but I understand a lot of the reasons why people don't.
Yeah, well, I think if people don't, they didn't give it a try. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many people out there, like in media. Like I shared with you, Seth. Oh, frick, what's his name? The guy from the late night show. Seth. I watch him every night. How can I forget him? The guy who does a closer look on NBC. Seth.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
You know how he had a little plug in his monologue, and it was like a little tangent. He's talking about Andor and how it's the greatest thing that Star Wars has made in so many years, and he went on about it for quite a bit to tell a joke, right? And so I just think that people have to give it a try, and all I can say is try it. I know 3 episodes it's a lot to try, but I think I don't know, 'cause it's not pew pew pew. It's attracting people. It's story.
Right.
It gets really tense. Like it's like the prison scene is so tense. Like there's so many things that are just so intense and nothing. My wife watched 1 episode. It was in the middle of the series when he's in the prison. She's like, "This is intense," and she really liked the show. She didn't know who any of the characters were, but that 1 episode she watched was so intense. She said she really enjoyed it. So I think people if they haven't tried, they need to give Andor a try. It's something totally different. And I've been saying this for a long time too, Steve. Like me, I always wanted to see the behind the scenes. Like let's see a cop show, like but stormtroopers, like called troopers, right? But,
Right.
this is the first. This is one of the, the Bad Batch shows you a little bit behind the scenes of the Empire. This really went behind the Iron Curtain to see what's going on behind in the Empire's meeting rooms and stuff like that, right? Like we got to see how many characters they introduced that work inside for the Empire, like 5
Yeah.
in the series, right? You see the meetings, you see what they're talking about, you see, that I love that. I love seeing the bad
Yeah.
guys doing their daily stuff. You know what I'm
Do the
saying?
daily
Like,
stuff. It
and
wasn't
how
all chasing rebels or
exactly, and it's all about, oh, I want this promotion. I want to get out of here. Oh, I want to put a good face on. You know what I'm saying? Like
it was very
it's
petty, like they were.
petty.
Yeah.
And again, this is how a small band of rebellions brought them down, because all they cared about was themselves.
Yeah. Hey, look who we have
Hey, Jeremy!
watching. Jeremy.
Oh yeah, that's Macho. That's my Macho Man.
Welcome back. You're catching us talking about the year of 2022 for Star Wars. So
what are some of your favorite things, Jeremy, in 2022? Or maybe some of your worst things that you had issues with. Me and Steve are breaking down what we liked and first of all, what we didn't like. Now we're getting to what we liked in this last 15 minutes. I got to go in 15 minutes. But
yes.
So my ultimate favorite thing, can I jump into my favorite thing,
Yeah,
Steve?
yeah, go for it.
Okay. My favorite thing, I think, of this whole entire 2022, I know you're big on the Luke Skywalker. The whole thing where he came out, and did his Luke Skywalker thing, which I thought was a good parody of the end of Rogue One when Darth Vader came with a lightsaber, beating up all the rebels. I think one of my favorite thing, even though the Kenobi series fell off at the end, that confrontation from Obi-Wan and Darth Vader on that planet when they're lightsaber fighting, and it cuts his mask, and he's having that conversation. The lighting, when he's bad, it's red, and then it turns purple when he's good. And he said, "You thought you destroyed me. You didn't. I
and
destroyed
the voice
myself."
kept changing.
Yeah, and that was just so good. And Jeremy said, "Andor." Yeah.
Best, loved Andor. Some of the best storytelling in years. I'd say better than Mando. Well, I mean, my favorite's still Mando, and I'm really looking forward to. I've watched that trailer so many times. The next season of Mandalorian is going to be a big Mandalorian battle war or something. I love it.
And Jeremy, I'm with you. I thought Andor was easily the best Star Wars content produced and made since Empire Strikes Back. There, I just said it.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I'm gonna say that. Yeah, it was by far, because to me, how I have issues with Return of the Jedi, because Darth Vader wasn't bad. So he says Kenobi was everything a Star Wars fan needed. And yes, it was. I agree too. It's nice to see that Darth Vader and Obi-Wan go against each other once again in an epic battle. I really loved going to Obi-Wan. I loved Obi-Wan just trying to live his life, not hiding, working, cutting up the meat market, right, sort of thing. And I loved that whole thing, that he was just not getting involved, even though he could help, he didn't help. You know what I'm saying? Like it was so important that he didn't stay hidden so he can watch over Luke. I love that aspect of Obi-Wan for sure.
Well, so I wanted to talk about kind of a statement we had in an article, just to thank all the viewers. And I have something written up here, so I'm going to put up I'm going to read our thank you to our viewers. It's like, it's been another year, and Star Wars reporter wanted to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thank you. Thank you for reading our articles, checking us out on our podcast, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and sharing in our enthusiasm for this wonderful franchise we've come to adore. We are fans just like you, people who delight in the continuing adventures of the Star Wars saga. If what lies ahead is even a fraction as wonderful as what has already come, then we have some amazing adventures just around the corner. Star Wars has carved out its place in history, and we're compelled to share in its joy spoils. We encounter something in life that moves us, connects us, and brings us together the way Star Wars has. We desire to celebrate it with friends and family. And that's what's so much of this is about. Making connections with like-minded people, making new friends, and confirming that we're not alone in our journey through life. We take comfort that other people hold the same hopes and dreams and that others feel as we do. Star Wars fans truly are family and proof that diversity should never divide us, but enrich us with everyone's unique perspective. We are proud to be Star Wars fans. We are proud of Star Wars fans. Collectively, they represent the best of us, the most willing to embrace something for the compassion in their heart and the content of their character, no matter their cultural background or physical stature. So I'm going to say from all of us at Star Wars Reporter and all our contributors, may the Force be with us all this holiday season.
Very well said. Very well said, Steve.
Merry Christmas. What does Tiny Tim say?
God
God bless us, everyone.
God bless us, everyone. That's right. I just watched Netflix's new Scrooge movie. It was pretty good.
Yeah, we're glad that you're back, Jeremy. We missed you coming in with your comments, and anyone else in the comments would like to, share their thoughts, their likes and dislikes about any of the series that have happened in 2022. Go ahead.
When Jeremy, if you look up the comment before, Jeremy said he's with me. He says that he thought Andor was the best storytelling since Empire Strikes Back 2.
Wow, big bold statements.
Come on, Empire is so good. It's like the epitome of storytelling. It's so good. And there's been again, I'm not trying to take anything away from other Star Wars content. Rogue One might be one of the number 2, number 3 best stories in the whole entire Star Wars universe, right? So, there's a lot of content now that we're able to watch and enjoy. And yes, not everything's gonna be perfect, right? But that's not everything's gonna be perfect, but at least we have some Star Wars to watch.
And I love the fact that we can debate what we like and don't like, still be friends and still be Star Wars fans.
Absolutely.
And considered Star Wars fans. I just like
some people don't like Ewoks. What? Right?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Those people are wrong.
Wrong. So Jeremy, you told us what your favorite thing was in 2022. What was maybe your least favorite? Not saying it has to be a whole series. Maybe it's a little bit of a piece of a series or something that happened. You're going, didn't like that part of the storyline. Is there anything that stands out to you?
Right. And we can also go over our list. We'll rank the series from 1 to 6 of what we think. So
let's do it.
I think it'll be shocked. So, hey, I'll let you go.
Let me go. Oh, I didn't write it down. So so we have of all the series. Okay, coming in number. Is there 6 of them? 6, right?
There's 6, right? So we have on the list. We have
Book of Fett is 6.
Okay.
Book of Fett is 6, and then from there, I'm going to say. This is including Mandalorian season 2, right? Is that correct?
So Mandalorian, Kenobi, Andor, Tales of the Jedi, Boba Fett, and Bad Batch.
Okay, then I'm going to say Bad Batch.
Okay.
At number 5. From there, I'm going to probably say Kenobi.
Okay.
Okay, and from there, I'm probably going to say I'm going to say Mandalorian season 2. And then the Tales of the Jedi is number 2, and number 1 was Andor.
Okay. Awesome. Okay.
Again, all are good. Like I'm going to give Book of Fett. Like it's found to me, it's weak. My least favorite one, but I'm still going to give that like an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
So, having said that.
Okay. So you might be disappointed with my list, but here we go.
It's just your opinion. It doesn't. My opinion is not right. Just that's how I felt.
Okay. Number 6, Obi-Wan.
Okay, that's fair.
Number 6. Number 5, Book of Boba Fett.
That's where mine was, right?
Number 4, Tales of the Jedi.
Okay.
Number 3, Andor.
Ooh, 3. Okay. Yeah.
3.
Okay.
Number 2, The Bad Batch. And number 1, The Mandalorian.
Of course, Mandalorian. Just because of Luke Skywalker.
Not just because of Luke Skywalker. I love the whole space western I like the balance of action with the storytelling. I mean, the storytelling isn't deep, but I really enjoyed it. Obi-Wan hit me for the bottom because of the kind of break in canon and
Continuity.
continuity and stuff, and a lot of it didn't make sense to me. And it was awesome seeing Hayden back and Obi-Wan together and stuff like that. And like you just said, you don't hate Star Wars. It's just like you have to rank them somehow, right? Like something has to be
No,
last and something has to be first. So
if Darth Vader wasn't in Obi-Wan, it
yeah.
probably wouldn't have ranked so high for me. But because again, of all the storytelling this year, to me, that was the most convenient storytelling sometimes. How he
Mhm.
breaks in and how she broke into that facility and just, she takes out the garden, no one heard or no one saw. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Just
right.
there's a lot of convenience in that series. There was. I admit it. Sort of lazy storytelling. But CC's in charge of it, Mrs. Kennedy, and that's her kind of MO.
Right.
Well, and Jeremy says the only thing he didn't like is the fact there wasn't enough of it.
Right, right. And, it's a good point too. The musical scores from all the recent stuff should win awards too. Yeah, and I think a lot of them did. So, like for
I,
Kenobi and things like that. So,
you're right, Jeremy. That's something we're not really touching base on lots is the fact that how good the music was. Like they're not just using the regular Star Wars theme. Every show kind of has its soundtrack, and music's so important to set a mood and set a tone and set a feeling. And that's one thing it's really doing well. Like let's talk about Steve talking about when Luke Skywalker appears and Grogu's saying goodbye to Mandalorian, and after Mandalorian takes his mask off and that music's playing, Steve's got a tear in his eye, right? It, the music's doing its job so well, and I agree with you 100%. The original music that they're doing for the Star Wars series and all the series really is top notch.
yeah. Hey, welcome, John Bap 426. I think I'm saying that right. He's come in and said, "What's up, fellas?
What's up? We're talking about our
What's
favorite
up?"
things. I have 4 minutes left, but favorite things
Right, it-
2022.
and we're going to be done. But hey, before we do leave, make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this way you'll get notifications of when we're going to have our podcasts, which seem to be normally on Thursdays, usually at 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can take part in the chat and give your comments, just like everyone else here, and
Yeah,
we'll read them out.
I'd love to have you part of the conversation for sure. Let us know your thoughts. What we do is we usually watch an episode, we break it down, and we discuss, we talk about it, and we'd love to have people's input. And we share the information. It's a lot of fun to talk with like-minded people.
Okay, so final thoughts then. These last couple of minutes. Your hopes for the future of Star Wars. We have a bunch of stuff coming up. We have season 2 of The Bad Batch and
Mandalorian season 3 is coming
Mandalorian
out in
season
March,
3.
right? So there's lots of stuff to look forward to. I know that Ahsoka's in production. We know that Andor season 2 is in production. There's lots coming down what's the other one? What's a Citadel? No, it's the Star Wars one of the Sith. It's called
Oh,
Acolytes,
the
right?
Acolyte. Yeah,
Acolytes. Yeah.
the
So
Acolyte.
again, another series which I'm really looking forward to seeing the behind the bad guys. I'm all about that. So I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to it. Lots of good promising things come up in 2023, I think.
And if we don't see your wish list, everyone that's watching now of what you liked or disliked or looking forward to in this series that are going to be coming up, leave a comment on the video. Go to our social media. You could check us out on Facebook. There we go, right here.
There we go.
Instagram, on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, for the old guys, apparently. And leave a comment. Make sure you follow us. And like I said, you'll get to see all the latest news, because we do news as well. So we write articles, and we have different videos that come out in our podcast. So 2023 is going to be looking good. So this will be our last podcast until the new year, I believe, and because we're going to be busy, and Trooper Todd and I might get to meet each other for the first time in 35 years.
That's very exciting. Exactly. We're on opposite ends of the country, and we get to talk to each other every week doing these podcasts. But hopefully in 2023, in January, I'm going to be going close to Steve, and then hopefully we can meet up. First time 35, because we've been friends, really good friends since the age of 5. So Steve is the longest person, the longest person I've known as a friend, and yeah, so it's been so great, connect with you, Steve. And one of my highlights is the fact that you reached out to me and we got back together, sort of thing, just to do these share Star Wars again like we did when we were young. And so I thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to 2023 of sharing more Star Wars with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, hey, thanks to everyone who has tuned in and taken part in the chat. And again, like I said, let us know in the comments section if we're full of crap or you think we're pretty awesome guys. And we will see you next
year. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. May the force be with you guys.